Hello and welcome to an all-new episode of Anime Brain Freeze. We are your odd hosts.
I am John.
And I'm CC. And when there's just too much cool anime to watch, we've got you covered. Summer is here, at least according to my calendar, and according to all the new premieres dropping like zap mosquitoes into our anime streaming portals. So of course we will tackle those we checked out momentarily in our sneak peek. And after that we will review our first show from spring, a quirky little series called Odd Taxi that completely came out of left field and took our breath away. So get ready to get weird, which is kind of the MO of Anime Brain Freeze anyway, and definitely don't pause the pod. We'll be right back. They try to hit you. They try to kick you when you're down and out. Alright, sneak peek time. We, of course, as usual, checked out the premieres from summer season that piqued our interest, which for me weren't that many this time around. I only have like 5 shows as a whole. John has like twice that number, but also some nopes in there. So we'll see how we'll figure out who does how many. There's some overlap, you know the deal. We have the nopes, we have the maybes, we have the keepers. Nopes are the shows that we will not, after watching the first 1 or 2 episodes, stick with. We have the maybes, shows that might be worth a review, that are at least interesting to us in some way. And we have the keepers, shows that we are sure we're gonna stick with, pretty sure anyway. I have no nopes. John, you have some. Do you want to start us off for the sneak peek this time around?
Yeah, sure, why not? Let's start with Peach Boy Riverside. So this is the story of Saltarine Alderake, princess of the kingdom of Alderake, and she dreams of traveling the world. A dangerous dream in a land where monsters roam the countryside as they please, and humans live behind high, strong walls. But when a chance meeting with the traveler Mikoto gives hope to her dream, he shatters it soon after as he reveals himself to be none other than Momotaro, ruthless demon slayer. Though horrified by the gore Momotaro leaves in his wake, Saltarine is convinced more than ever that she needs to learn about the world beyond her walls, and journeys out, following the steps of the mysterious, charismatic, terrifying boy she met that day. This show seems... So it's definitely supposed to be, quote-unquote, a retelling of the legend of Momotaro, the Peach Boy.
Which I'm really not familiar with. That is a name that always comes up here and there. It's a very famous myth in Japan, apparently, but I don't even... I don't even know what is going on in that story.
Yeah, I really don't either. So I was like, oh, maybe I'll check this out. And this show seems really concerned with weird, massive power gaps between characters. And
how does that manifest?
And also giant earth-flattening laser beams, like, constantly.
I mean, that's fine.
It's used a lot in the first 2 episodes alone.
Okay.
And it just seems like a lot of violence for the sake of violence. And I was just like, I don't know about this, man.
Well, is it staged in a weird, schlocky, fun, over-the-top way? Or is it like, this is trying to be grim and shocking and everything, and it's more grating than anything?
It's kind of grating because, like I said, the whole power gap thing, like Mikoto / Momotaro runs across this one, I guess they refer to them in this world as ogres, this ogre lady Meki, who uses her eye to shoot giant laser beams.
Uh-huh.
And he...
Behold! Optic blast!
All right, chill out, Cyclops. He dispatches of her easily, and then Saltarine, hereafter referred to as Sally, because that's how they do it in the show, why not, faced off against this giant, how topical, a giant walrus ogre named Set, and she kind of goes into this weird, like, blood rage outside of her control, and just, like swats his arm off and then like cleaves him in twain, like it's like no big deal. And I'm just watching this like, what?
Okay.
Huh?
Is it at least well animated?
The production is there. I guess, but a lot of because of these massive gaps in strength, it just feels really hacky.
Okay, well, that's a shame. Could have been a fun retelling Monster Realm thing, I guess.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna stick around for it because, like you said at the start, I picked up more shows than you, and I need to drop a lot of them.
Yeah, and that's also one of the things why I didn't pick up as many, because at least I don't know about you, John, but you also have some. There are a lot of leftovers this season from the previous one. There's My Hero Academia. There's From Your Eternity to Your Eternity.
Yes, two.
Yes, two. I always mix that up. And there's also Tokyo Revengers, and I'm forgetting one other, I think.
I'm still watching Dragon Quest as a sideshow.
There you go. So there's a lot of stuff that is still here anyway, and then, picking up all the new ones, taking it a bit slow this time around, because don't want to fucking overdo it again. So, yeah, but you're probably a wise choice to drop a show that you are not really convinced of, and this seems to be one of those.
I mean, that one I was just not convinced of. The problem is there's other shows on my there's other shows that I should be dropping, but there's parts of them that just I want to see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes that happens, and as long as you're having a fun time, that's good. You don't necessarily need to review those shows anyway. It's just or it's going to be a quick and a dead review, and that's also fine. And we'll see how many end up on your review list by the end of the season or the next one. So what's is the next show? Is the next one still a nope, or are we already jumping into the maybes?
I think that's my big hard nope, but I have some that are straddling the line. Like Girlfriend.
Yes, you told me about this.
Yes, I did.
Which, of course, I didn't check out, because this is so completely anti-CC material that's... I was I'm going to keep away from that.
I had to watch it because I had to know. So, Naoya Mukai has been asking out his childhood friend Saki for years and years. I want to point out her given name Saki, family name Saki. Her name is Saki.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you do that to your child?
I don't know. Sadistic parents. It happens. I've met some of these. I'm even friends with some.
Oh, no. Anyway, when the two enter high school, Saki finally says yes, and now they're going steady. Everything is going well between the two until Naoya is confronted by Nagisa Minase. She's cute, well-mannered, a good cook, and she has a crush on Naoya. Now he's faced with a choice. Does he date his childhood sweetheart, this new lovely lady? Of course, Naoya makes the logical decision. He asks Saki if he can date both her and Nagisa, and the expected result occurs.
Mm-hmm.
However, Naoya and Nagisa convince Saki to let all three of them live together, and now shenanigans are in full swing. This show's so fucking stupid, but I have to know where it goes.
Is it based on a manga, or is this...
Yes.
Okay. Is that still running? Is that successful? Are people liking it? What's happening with that?
The manga has been running since March last year. It's still going. I don't know how popular it is, but popular enough to get an anime adaptation.
Yeah, I was about to say, if it's already getting an adaptation, I guess it's popular enough.
Yes. So Saki, the brief rundown of the first couple episodes is Saki decks Naoya when he brings this wild idea forth. And I don't blame her.
It's a sensible reaction, I feel.
Out of all of the stupid harem shows where the hero gets clocked for no reason, this is probably the best reason.
Yes, this is a very understandable... very relatable, or I get maybe relatable is the right word, but a very, like I said, a very understandable reason. It's Saki
is probably the most relatable character in this show because she wants to be with her boyfriend, right? But Nagisa is so nice and so cute, and maybe maybe she's discovering something about herself in the process because she says Nagisa is really cute and she can't say no to her. Uh-oh.
Ah, interesting. So,
I don't know how much longer I'll watch this show, but I would love it. If the end result is Saki dumps Naoya to get with Nagisa. That would be so good!
That would actually be... Yes, okay. That would probably make me watch that show, too. It's like you got more than you bargained for, buddy.
But yeah, there's a scene in the first episode where Saki's like, how could you fucking do this? And turns to Nagisa and says, actually, how are you all right with this? And Nagisa says in so many words, I'll only be rejected if he doesn't date both of us. So I'm okay with it. And Saki's like, are you kidding me?
How about a bit more self-esteem, I guess? I don't like the setup. It's an absolute wish fulfillment harem setup to like the nth degree. But I can see it going some interesting places. So I guess I can see where it piqued your interest. But
here's the thing. Now he is an idiot. I don't think he actually knows what sex is. Because at one point he talks about, I was kind of interested in having a threesome. And the girls are like, excuse me?
Uh-huh.
And then when the subject is brought up later on, the three of them are laying down at night, in their futons, ready to go to sleep. But Nagisa wants to lay in the same futon as Naoya, and Saki is like losing her goddamn mind.
Also understandable.
And she eventually blurts out, "You put it in, didn't you?" And he's like, "What? Huh?" And it's like, You don't get it. You don't understand. Oh my god, you're an idiot. Why are you an idiot?
Because usually every protagonist in a harem anime is a complete fuck idiot.
Do you actually know what a threesome is? Because I don't think you do.
No, probably not.
But that's girlfriend in a nutshell.
Like I said, usually the protagonists of harem anime are complete tools, oblivious beyond the suspense of disbelief, and that fits the bill. I wonder where that show is going. And I feel like we're talking already way too much about it.
I know, but it's such a dumbass show that I don't want to put too much time into, but there's a lot to unpack. You know, though, I will give Naoya one thing. He is ferociously loyal to both girls. So he's a good guy, at least.
Interesting. If you really will finish it, tell me if it gets even stupider. I can't imagine it, but, like I said.
We'll see.
Yeah. Whew. Yeah.
Roller coaster of emotions.
Roller coaster of emotions. Speaking of roller coaster of emotions, so I checked out a show that you also recommended to me, Life Lessons with Uramichi-Oniisan.
Yes!
It's still my babies, but it's kind of very close to the keepers, just like all my babies are this season. So this is a work comedy. Kinda.
It's something.
Comedy is kind of stretching it. I mean, it's funny, but it's also depressing. Tragic in a certain way, very #relatable. So this is about washed up gymnast, I guess. Yeah, he's at least what he studied in college or something. And he ended up on a fucking children's educational live action TV show thing where he's the instructor guy that tells all the kids, hey, let's come over and do our exercises, and here are our mascots and what have you. You know these people. You know this kind of programming. And this job is sucking the life out of him very slowly, but also very consistently. Mm-hmm. And he gets more and more pent-up aggression and needs to vent it somehow. Which he does by telling all the kids about really troublesome real-life shit, which they don't understand, of course. But the viewers do, and we laugh at it, and also cry. And all his colleagues are kind of the same as him for various reasons. Like, he is 31, he's single, severely depressed, hates his life, and definitely hates his job. And, his face hurts from having to smile all the time. The kids annoy him. His co-workers annoy him. We're all bitter losers, just like him, like I said. But it's kind of him airing his misgivings in front of the kids is hilarious. And again, #relatable. Well, at least if you had that life experience in a way, stuck in a job that makes you regret getting up every morning, which definitely is what happens to Uramichi. And I feel like both you and I have experienced at least once in our life such a job situation, so we feel spoken to.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you are one of the lucky few who didn't have to deal with this kind of situation yet, this show might not be for you because its humor is black as night and deeply cynical. For everyone else, this might become too real. We'll see.
My favorite exchange in the first episode was, "My daddy is 2 years younger than you. How come you're not married and have no kids?" Give me a break. Everyone's life is different. Just because a single guy guzzles down cheap sake while watching boring late-night dramas every night, you shouldn't assume that he's unhappy. So good! The dialogue, it's so biting. Oh.
Yeah. It's very biting. It's cutting deep, and yeah, it's really funny. Like, the show is split in these small segments. I reviewed the show a long time ago. Haven't you heard I'm Sakamoto, which also was kind of structured in that way. Though Sakamoto was a lot more surreal. This feels, even though there's a lot of surrealism in it, just by the virtue of two of the characters just running around in their mascot costumes all the time, which is fucking ridiculous, this feels much more real and much more closer to life and disturbing in a way. But yeah, it's like each episode is structured in these very small segments, and it's just basically one joke in each segment, and then we move over to the next day. Don't even have to be necessarily in chronological order. I think they are, but there could have been like days between those, weeks between those. And that kind of fits also the tone of the show. It's like all of your days start to merge into a single molasses. And I think that's what Uramichi feels like. And that's what the show kind of feels like. This could happen at any time, at any day, because it all feel the same. Not all the jokes are the same, but there's a through line here. And yeah, I liked it. I like the humor. I think it's, like you said, it's very biting. It's very cynical. It's if you like that kind of humor, you probably will like the show, at least if you can relate to the characters in some way. And they're not like completely unlikable assholes or anything. Quite the contrary, actually. I think I liked all of the characters for one reason or another, which was surprising to me because I expected them to be so bitter that they're kind of irritating in a way, but they kind of aren't. I just feel bad for them.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's really funny, and the way they antagonize each other in a way and everything, because, you know, they can't stand the situation they're in. It's all very relatable and understandable, and it's funny and sad. And one of the characters is an absolute airhead, like Ikiteru. He laughs his ass off because some scientist's nickname would be Dick, and because his real name is Richard. And that laugh the voice actor has feels so fucking real. It doesn't feel staged and acted at all, and it's really good.
I believe it's our favorite Mamoru Miyano.
Yes, of course, that fits. I wasn't sure, but of course that would be Miyano, yes. Amazing. He's also doing the ED, right? He's singing the ending.
Good one.
Yeah. So, of course, he's also playing a role in that. Yeah, it's a fun show. I don't know if this kind of shtick, this kind of humor will last me 13 or 12 episodes. I have no idea. You know, it's a gag manga, and humor is always... I never know if this lasts. It lasted me with Sakamoto. I don't know if it will do with this show, but for now it does. I think for you it's the same.
Yeah. I mean, I want to see where some of these shenanigans go, because some of these like one-off jokes are so gold. Mm-hmm. Like in the second episode, they're like, it's time to sing, kids. And the first song is, how come it only rains when you forget your umbrella? Mm-hmm. And the second one is those little spiders you see around the house. And I'm like, oh.
Uh-huh. Yeah. It's like I said, there's like this deeply disturbing underlying tone in that show. It's like, is the person who made this okay? Probably not.
I originally thought this was like the same author as Sayonara Zetsubo Sensei, and it's not.
Yeah. So. I mean, probably some people in Japanese media or in the creative field in Japan that kind of feel the same. So I'm not surprised by it that it's not him, it's someone else. It's like I said, it's a very relatable show, and depending on if you can relate to that kind of humor and that kind of life situation, this show might work for you or not at all. But I recommend you checking it out if you have a kind of cynical edge to your attitude, at least on certain days. And yeah, then it's an easy watch. And the first 2 episodes flew by for me. I enjoyed them a lot, question mark, but yeah, I at least enjoyed watching them. Like I said, it was a mix of almost crying and laughing, back and forth, whiplash throughout both of these 2 episodes. So we'll see where it goes. I assume it's going to stay my cup of tea.
Same. I would like to see the gradual erosion of the human soul.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
How does Hiroshi Kamiya keep getting these roles?
I have no idea. It's typecasting, I guess.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Makes me also worry about him in real life. I don't know.
A little bit.
John, what is your next maybe?
My next maybe is the detective is already dead.
Aha. Okay. Haven't checked that one out.
So, Kimihiko Kimizuka has always been a magnet for trouble and intrigue. For as long as he can remember, he's been stumbling across murder scenes or receiving mysterious attaché cases to transport. When he met Siesta, a brilliant detective fighting a secret war against an organization of pseudo-humans, he couldn't resist the call to become her assistant and join her on an epic journey across the world. Until a year ago, that is. Now he's returned to a life that is normal and tepid by comparison, knowing the adventure must be over. After all, the detective is already dead. He doesn't seem to make up its mind whether it wants to be a mystery or a rom-com, and it doesn't do either particularly well. But it got me interested somehow because... Spoilers, the great detective Siesta is dead somehow. We know that from the end of the first episode. We don't know how, we don't know when, we don't know why. So I'm going to assume over the course of this show that will be lined out. I mean, this is also based off of a light novel, so, bullshit ahoy.
Yay.
But I wanted to check it out because it's a light novel that's not an isekai.
Wow. These still exist?
I know, right? And it sounded at least interesting on paper. The second episode, Kimihiko meets up with this girl who's trying to find this person who she doesn't know who she is or doesn't know why she even wants to meet with her. And fuck it, it's the second episode, who cares? She eventually finds out that because she had a lot of heart troubles in the past, she got a heart transplant. And the heart that she got was Siesta's.
Ah, all right.
And so she, I guess, because of the non-proven science that is memory transference, and Kimihiko even says as such, I guess, the memory of the host must have come along with you. He doesn't 100% believe it himself, so at least he's not like spouting off stupid bullshit while he's saying it.
Okay, but they kind of share the body in a way.
Yeah,
their minds. I don't know. Like I said, their memories. Interesting.
So I do have one issue though with the title of this show. So the detective's already dead. In Japanese, it's Tante wa mou shindeiru. Fine, the translation checks out. In Japanese, it has a Spanish subtitle. Y'all are going to get a Spanish lesson.
Oh, boy.
The subtitle is La Detective está muerta. Now, está is a particular choice because estar is the conjugated form of estar. Estar reflects a state of being, a temporary state of being. Now, that suggests to me the detective is dead for now. Unless the implication is that, she lives on through this heart transplant, whatever. But if the detective were already dead, were actually dead, it would be La Detective es muerta, the conjugated form of ser, because ser implies an immutable, unchangeable fact. For example, to use it in a sentence for all of you to understand, I would say, yo soy de America. I am from America. That is where I am from. In contrast to yo estoy en America, I am in America, and the implication is currently that is where I am. So the word choice just leaves me scratching my chin a little bit, wondering what's going on. And I don't know, the writing seems a little weird, but it's got me at least somewhat interested to see where it's going beyond this.
Yeah, the choice of words is interesting, but you can also always, not always, but it could be the case that this is just a mistranslation. Someone didn't pay attention when choosing the right verb, I guess. But, yeah, but that sounds interesting. Yeah, maybe there is going to be a revive plot coming in or something, a way to actually bring the detective fully back to life. Who knows? Completely taking over the body. Well, we'll see.
I mean, that would kind of be a little weird, but, it's anime. It's
yeah. It's already weird considering, it was her heart and blah, blah, blah. So,
true.
Pseudoscience. So, I don't know. But yeah, could be interesting.
Maybe.
Let's see how long you stick with it.
True. So, what you got next?
I think you need to do another one because, you got twice the shows. And
that's true. Okay,
yeah.
All right. So then I guess I'll talk about Getter Robo Arc.
Please do so.
Yes. The world is under threat from giant evil space insects that assault what is left of civilization. A team of elite mecha pilots fight a losing battle against the malicious bugs, dispatched from a laboratory run by the prolific Hayato Jin, 10 years after his tenure of being one of the co-pilots of the legendary Getter Robo. Takuma Nagare, the son of his former teammate Ryoma, is after Hayato for answers about what happened to his family. And Takuma is now entangled in this conflict against the space bugs, a new Getter Robo, and the truth of his family. It's been a minute since Getter Robo.
Yeah, I feel like we had a few specials and movies in between, maybe.
The last one I watched was Shin Getter versus Neo Getter, so it's been a minute. And I'm all for new Getter Robo. The problem is this show is the ugliest piece of animation I've seen in a long time, and it's almost distracting.
That's a shame. Which studio is doing it?
I believe it's like B Media and Studio ACAT.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, B Media and ACAT. Here's the thing. The CG on the monsters and Getter Robo itself, that looks fine. It's the characters that are like, Takuma has not been on model once.
Wow.
His design changes between cuts, and I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah, probably not. I mean, I don't know if how much attention, how much audience Getter Robo still draws. So I don't know how much budget was allocated to that project, but I can imagine it being not too big. So.
Yeah, but, it's mecha anime is a dying breed.
That's true.
So I want to at least check out what's out there. I mean, the same studio, ACAT, did, never mind, that was 12 years ago, Mazinger Z, The Impact. And as I recall, that show looked a lot better than this one. So, I don't know. I want to watch more of it, but it's hard to not be distracted by how fugly this show is.
A bummer, but... maybe the story and characters make up for it. We'll see. Or you will see, or you won't. All right. The next show I checked out is The Book of Vanitas. Yes. Vampire Adventures in Steampunk Paris, I guess, is what you could put as a subtitle there. So the setup is the vampire Vanitas was the only vampire born under the blue moon, while the other vampires, born under the red moon, shunned him and cast him out of their community. And as revenge, he created a book that would put a curse on every vampire by corrupting their real name, a vampire's source of life and power. And not current time, but I don't even know when it's supposed to be set. Early 20th century, maybe a bit before that. I don't know.
19th century.
There we go.
I had to look it up myself.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. But yeah, it's steampunk Paris. It's a giant castle-like airships. Very pretty. This is overall is a very pretty show. It's done by Bones, so that's to be expected. And yeah, we on one of these airships, we meet Noe, a vampire who runs into a human calling himself Vanitas, who says the original Vanitas passed his book and name onto him. And this new Vanitas uses the book to cure all vampires of their curse. and revealing their true name to them so they can be their old selves again. This is pretty much kind of a buddy cop detective show thing with, of course, anime action battles and all that shit, vampire superpowers. And yeah, I liked it a lot. I thought the dynamic between Noe and Vanitas is really fun. Like, Vanitas is a theatrical doofus who gets hit on his head a lot. And each have characteristics that the other one has to put up with and is annoyed by in a way. And, you know, their banter is fun and the world looks great and everything. And there's some interesting setups and they have to overcome a lot of odds from the get-go because either no one believes that the Book of Vanitas is even real, or they believe that it's a fake, and all the other vampires believe that it's a cursed thing, and the book needs to be destroyed, and whoever bears it needs to be destroyed too. So these two have a lot to prove when it comes to, hey, we can save all vampire kind here. And yeah, I liked it. I liked the style. I liked the writing, the visuals especially. I think it's a great looking show, and I'm probably gonna keep watching it. This could also be a keeper for, like I said, all my maybes are straddling on the line of keepers. I don't know how fast the plot will move and if there is some interesting developments here and there, but I can see this being not your standard, hey, here is vampires, and there's also already a tease for the ending of the show, which had me raise my eyebrow. It's like, hey, don't tell me that. That would have been a big surprise. Why would you give that away? It's not as general as Deku's at the beginning of My Hero Academia saying, I would become the biggest hero of them all. It's like, thanks. You know, the show is more about this of his struggle getting there, but this also, right at the end of the first episode, Noe says, and at the end of our journey, I would be the one who slayed Vanitas. I'm like, huh? Wait, thanks?
That could be some sort of swerve, though, because, I mean, which Mega Man X game was it at the end where it was like, X will have to kill Zero, and then shenanigans happen? It was either X5 or X3. It was one of the two.
Yeah, one of those. I don't know. Maybe there will be a twist to that where it's like, no, he's gonna slay the real Vanitas because he is still alive, and I have my suspicions of Noe's master, who tells him to assess the true nature of the book being maybe the real Vanitas. Who knows? There's some interesting things that might happen in this, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it. The battles look cool, and the OP is a sexy bop, and
it's so good.
Yeah, it's really cool. So yeah. A lot of interesting stuff. The only problem I had with the first two episodes, like, there's a lot of lore being dumped on you. Like, in the very first episode, it's just like so much stuff is unloaded on you. Hey, here's this shit origin of Vanitas, and here is what you need to know about vampires, and, you know, this is how the world works. And then in the second episode, it's like, hey, here's this government agency that works to kill all the curse bearers, and, you know, there's this other faction, and here are these executioners. Like, hold on, slow the fuck down, show. That's the only thing that irked me a bit, but aside from that, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem weird that they're going as fast as they are, because this is supposed to be like a split core show, so there's going to be another season after this one airs. That much is already known. Yeah,
really weird. I don't know why they're... I mean, it doesn't feel like they're rushing through it necessarily in terms of how much is happening. It just feels like there's just so much fucking lore and world building done in such a short time to get that out of the way, I guess, so the actual plot can happen. It's like there could have been a more elegant way to do all this, I guess, but it wasn't so bad that it deterred me from watching the show. So it was just the one thing I noticed was like, this is a lot. So yeah, we'll see where it goes. I'm interested to find out. Good-looking show, good-looking action show, and like I said, the two main characters are very fun together, and I like them doing that thing. There was one specific scene in the second episode where they come across Vanitas' information peddler Dante, and he's like kind of being snide. I have a new partner now. I don't need you anymore. And Dante's like, well, okay, that's a shame because I just found out who is responsible for all the killings. And Vanitas just throws himself into the dust in front of him. And it's like, oh no, Dante, how I love thee. And I fucking burst out laughing. That was so well done. I forgot who the voice actor for Vanitas is, but he's a well-known mainstay.
I think it's Natsuki Hanai.
Yeah, it's a very, very familiar voice actor. And very good, very good. So the show is also really funny, and I recommend it. I'm probably gonna stick with it. Don't know why I put it in the maybes, actually, but that counts also for the previous show and the next one I'm bringing up. This is a bit arbitrary this time around. It's just like, hey, otherwise all of these would be keepers, and that would feel weird. So
I mean, there's a scene where No Way pulls a fastball special and just flings Vanitas at someone that they're going after, and I'm like, all right, I'm in.
Considering that Vanitas is supposed to be a human, he survives a lot of physical abuse that he should not survive with only a human body. So I wonder if there's more to him, or if the book is protecting him or something. But there's several scenes where, like, he should have died from that, so what is going on here? But yeah, we'll see.
Who knows?
John, what is your next maybe?
My next maybe is the Aquatope on white sand. Fuka Miyazawa is an up-and-coming idol. Or she was. Until she was fired from the show business. She's about to head home from Tokyo when she decides on a lark to travel to Okinawa. She wanders aimlessly until she is guided to the Gama Gama Aquarium by a local tourism spokeswoman. And there she meets the aquarium's director, the young woman Kukuru Misakino. Kukuru is taken off guard when Fuka asks if she can stay and work at the aquarium, but with the facility pressed for help, she can't say no. So this is the new PA Works show, and it is fucking gorgeous.
Well, that is to be expected from PA Works, but how does the story fare?
The story is... it's a little strange, because, I mean, Fuka, she was an idol, and then there's reasons why she left show business / got fired. And we learn a bit about that in the second episode. And she basically just wants to be anywhere but home, because she has a very doting mother who's like, she's not even in the country at the moment. She keeps calling Fuka, wondering where she is. I mean, if your child says she's going to go, he or she says they're going to go home, and then they don't, and you don't hear from them for several days. Yeah, sure, okay.
Yeah.
Fuka falls asleep on the beach at one point, and then she is covered in fish bones when she wakes up. Yeah. She goes to the aquarium, and there's this weird phenomenon that happens where, like, the water and the fish start flowing out of the tanks and swimming around her, and it's very surreal and weird. And
Which
Kukuru
probably looks great.
Oh yeah, no, it looks incredible, but it's strange. Kukuru asks Fuka if she saw it. And she's like, what do you mean it? It being a Kijimuna, or a wood spirit, that had played a trick on her. And I had to look up what this was, because I don't know anything about local Okinawan legends. So again, a Kijimuna is a wood spirit that is typically very diminutive in size and has big red hair, like very big red hair. And you sort of see a character matching this appearance in quick flashes around the scenery, and very conveniently, the characters don't notice that this spirit is there, which leads me to kind of wonder if this is going to be one of those shows for PA Works. Because Glass Lip was weird. It was weird. I didn't super get into it because I thought it was really weird. But, it was a looker, but...
Yeah, and we had another PA Works shows that fits that kind of bill.
It was that detective show.
I don't mean that. The girl with the memories, the colors.
Irozuku, The World in Colors.
Yes, exactly.
And, I mean, it's weird because... the show immediately before Glass Slip was Nagiasu, and that's, got a little bit of a mysticism thing going on, but in spite of that, it feels grounded, and I don't know what direction Aquatope is going to go in.
It all comes down to if there's something that you can latch onto. I mean, the show can be willfully obtuse. There just needs to be something to keep your interest and to pull you through the mystery and through the eventual revelations. And I feel like some of these shows maybe don't. You know, the question is, can you attach yourself to these characters? Can you, like, are you interested enough to see, to find out together with them what is going on, or are you not? Is the show so vague and so weird that you just lose all connection to it? And, you know, that could happen, but also maybe you'll see something in there or enough in there that keeps you around.
And I mean, the dynamic between Fuka and Kukuru is great. It's really good. And, you know, I think they're really cool together. But this is also a two-core show, so I want to see where it goes.
Yeah.
So you might hear about it in 9 months. You might not. I don't know. I'll see.
Take your time.
But for now, it's at least a very pretty show with, you know, 2 main characters who are at least decently likable. So
that's good. We'll see where it goes. Oh, you will.
Yes.
All right. That brings us, I think, to our shared final maybe, which is Sonny Boy. I think Madhouse is doing this.
Yes.
Yes. And the director is Shingo Natsume. So the director of Space Dandy and One Punch Man Season 1. So this is already interesting from that setup alone. Last time he was doing something for Madhouse, or in that regard, pulled a lot of favors in and created something great with One Punch Man Season 1. At least that's the last thing I remember him doing at Madhouse. Might have been something else there in between that I haven't watched, but yeah, that was a good thing. So I definitely wanted to check out Sonny Boy because of that. And speaking of obtuse and weird, so this is ostensibly, like, the show starts us off in media res without giving us any introduction to the setup whatsoever. It's like here is a bunch of students. They're apparently stuck in their school that has apparently been transported to a black void of some kind. Like, they're completely cut off from the outside world. They don't know what is going on, just like you. They have, for some reason, gained some superpowers, at least some of them. And there's this rule set in this world that is enforced. First, we think it's by a certain character, but it really isn't. He just thinks he has that power, but he really doesn't. It's just a certain rule set in this world that needs to be followed. And if you going against the rules, you get these punishments. Someone says bots, and then you get this big X on your face, and you have to do these weird exercises as a punishment, like endless dividing or running 100 laps through the school or something, and you can't help it. You have to do it. And yeah, we have like a couple of interesting characters, like Nozomi, who's a girl who was always, apparently even before this happened, a fuck the rules girl. And she's still living by that attitude and doesn't care about the student council trying to enforce these rules. And she's like, even in this new environment, she's like, no, I do what I fucking want, leave me alone. And same goes for our other main character, I believe, Nagara, who is like this kind of aimless guy who doesn't know what to do with his life after school. He's just kind of chilling and, you know, still figuring things out. So he's kind of like, yeah, I might follow the rules, but also I don't really care. And the first episode ends with those two kind of falling into the void, you know, by Nozomi enacting that, trying to jump for an exit that she kind of saw or felt, or something she saw. And then the whole scenery changes from the black void to a giant ocean and a landmass that looks like a big green island that they're apparently not connected to. So it's really, really weird what's happening, the setup of this. After the first episode, it's not really clear. I have some suspicions what is going on, because there are like these small flashes we see of lightning striking the school, and then we see a flashback of all the students as lifeless husks, like these weird hollowed out zombie creatures, like they look like corpses. So they might all be dead, and this might be purgatory. Who knows? Not sure about that yet, but that might be a possibility. And another hint is there are a lot of cats. And if I'm not mistaken, in ancient mythology, cats are seen as guide to, protector of, and ruler over the underworld. So the purgatory thing makes sense even in that regard. I don't know. The animation is a bit wonky. Sometimes it's very fluid, sometimes kind of choppy. The color palette is very limited. The character design is a bit weird. But some of that changes with the final scene, which I thought was very well done in the final scene in the first episode. throughout the entire episode, we don't get any music. And like I said, very limited color palette. And then when Nozomi does that leap of faith at the end of the episode and everything changes, suddenly what I believe is the main theme and probably the OP of the show sets in when the ocean is revealed and everything. And there are much more colors than there were before. And that was just in terms of design choice and everything and how it was staged was done really well and really cool. And yeah, I'm not sure what the show is about yet. Could be anything. I feel like this is gonna be about following or rebelling against arbitrary rules and the students clashing with each other over it due to their different personalities and psychological baggage and all that, and then trying to come into their own for one reason or another, be it either go to heaven or to go back to the real world. It could be anything, really. There's a big mystery box at this point. Maybe they will already clear up a lot of shit in the second episode. Like I said, I have some suspicions where this story might go. But this is kind of like, just from the character setup alone, and you've got a lot of different archetypes, this feels a bit like a Danganronpa thing, and this might also turn into something like that, like a death game, where more and more people get eliminated, or, the world ends with you and stuff like that. So it could be that. We'll see. So far, nothing is written in stone, but it at least piqued my interest, so I'm gonna stick with it at least for a couple of more episodes. It is certainly a very unusual and interesting show, not only to look at, but also because of the story setup.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I think the first thing I said to you was, it's weird, but I don't know whether it's a good or a bad weird yet.
Yes, that's the thing. We know too little about the show and where it wants to go right now to say if it's good or bad. It's interesting right now, and that's the most positive thing you can say about it. Because anything else is still in flux. And we'll see. Like I said, it's interesting, and we'll see where it goes and if we'll stick with it. But it's definitely worth a look. All right, that's it for the maybes bordering on being keepers. John, how about the actual keepers? Do you want to name your first one?
Sure. It's raise your hands if you're surprised that John's watching Love Live Superstar. There's no hands up.
Nope, my hands are on the table.
So I have to check it out every time. That's just the pattern. That's how it is.
Sure.
It's so weird because idol shows come and go, but like stuff like Love Live, The Idol Master, those are like the big omnipresent ones, and it's really hard. It seems like it's everyone else trying to do the same thing just can't break into it.
Yeah, I mean, if those two shows do it so well, it's hard to find something that does something different enough and well enough to take away the crown. And since there's always a new Love Live and probably a new Idolmaster around the corner, why would you even try? I mean, apparently there are some shows that do it well. I think that one from last year, Dropout Idol Fruit Tart, apparently that turned out to be decent enough. Ah, yeah, so I've heard.
But there's also been some real losers along the way, like Boy, Idol Incidents was a thing. But yeah, so first off, it's a little weird. Speaking of now, that we're getting a new Love Live when the last one that aired, Nichigaku, is confirmed to get a second season, but it's not until next year? It just seems like a weird way to break it up. But I don't know if that's what they're going to do moving forward. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know how big the production line is at Sunrise. But, so long as Bandai, Bushiroad, and Sunrise have that money flowing into their pockets, it's going to keep on coming. So, Love Live Superstar is all about Kanon Shibuya, and she loves music and singing, and she strives to join the elite music class of the recently founded Yuigaoka Girls' High School, except she can't perform her musical talents at times when it counts the most. Seems like her dream is all but dead when she bombs the audition, but when she's singing casually on the street, she catches the attention of an exchange student named Cuckoo Ton, a girl who has great interest in the world of school idols. So, with Cuckoo's passion fueling this chance meeting, maybe Kanon's love for music will be reignited. It's, it's high school. It's High School Musical, Japanese high school edition. That's what it is every time, and I get taken in by it every time because they put in the work to do the production.
I mean, this has at least the potential to have like this big emotional climax where she overcomes her stage fright and everything. So
yeah, and that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah. So.
Also, they're kind of doing something a little bit different at this time. All of the past series have been 9 girls. This time it's only 5.
Wow. Okay, mixing up the formula, I guess.
Yeah, so maybe, and I didn't dislike Nijigaku, but maybe they just want to try something different and see if it works. Because, I think the 9 girls, each a set of 3 each from a different grade in their high school was, the tried and true formula that worked out for them. I think in Nijigaku they introduced like a 10th girl in the mobile game, so that's out there somewhere. That's not in anime form yet. But of course. Yeah, I'm gonna watch it. Am I gonna talk about it at the end of the season? Probably not, because all of these shows blend together. But I'll at least mention it in the Quick and the Dead to see if it's I enjoyed it or not.
Yeah, and I feel like smaller cast gives way for a bit more character development.
Yes,
for each character, so that might also be a plus.
Yeah, that's also one of my hopes because the previous shows had good character development, but it's still, you're trying to flesh out 9 characters over the course of 24 episodes. It's not a lot of time.
That's true.
So we'll see if I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, what you got?
What I have is also not a surprise, at least not after my glowing review of Season 2. It's that time I was reincarnated as a slime Season 3. The only isekai I'm willing to give my time right now. Yeah, it's Slime Time Season 3. It picks up immediately where the second season left off. So after that horrific attack on Rimuru City, he became a demon lord. He brought all his people back to life by slaughtering 10,000 people in the human army. So that happened, and the episode basically starts with, like, the first thing on the agenda in the first episode after all the hardships of the previous days is a big old party, and it's really nice to see everyone being in good spirits again. Veldora is finally freed from his prison, Rimuru's dragon friend he made a pact with when he arrived in this world, and he finally had enough power after his transformation to Demon Lord to free him, and now and has created a body for him, and now his new BFF or old BFF now is hanging out with him, and it's fun times, and he's very, very boastful, very loud, but also very fun. And yeah, that happens, and Shion, the fan favorite that was killed in the previous season but then brought back, has gained a new skill, Master Chef. So even though her food still looks disgusting because she uses her giant sword to prepare it and thus can cut up meat and vegetables properly, at least now tastes good due to the aforementioned skill. And Rimuru says he will get her some cooking knives, so things can only get better from here, which was like this cute little thing in the first episode. Made me laugh. And yeah, after becoming a demon lord, Rimuru now intends to go after Clayman, the big bad who has been pulling the strings from the very first episode when shit got bad, and to save Carrion, one of the other demon lords, which he promised to the 3 Beasketeers, members of the Beast tribe and underlings of Carrion. So that's gonna happen. And also, of course, he murdered the king of Falmouth, kinda. I think he did, or he imprisoned him, whatever. He intends to put one of his friends, one of his human friends, Yom, on the throne anyway and take over the kingdom of Falmouth. So that's also gonna happen. These 2 things. And we end this first episode on a big conference strategy meeting that basically is gonna set in stone the plans that are gonna come to fruition in this next season, I assume. The kingdom of the dwarves is coming over. Kingdom of the elves is coming over. Who is also the father of one of the newer cast members and everything. So there's a lot of shit happening. We'll see where it goes. I assume there will be a lot of action on the screen and a lot of fun developments, and I hope Clayman finally gets his comeuppance because he's done a lot of shit, and it's gonna be fun. I can't wait to see Rimuru throw his fucking overpowered bullshit in everywhere, because he has so many ultimate skills now. It's ridiculous. It's all bullshit. It's so dumb, but I like it, and I like that character, and I like all the ginormous cast surrounding him, because at this point, the cast of that time I got reincarnated as a slime is so enormous. There's so many fucking people. It's impossible to keep track of everyone if you haven't watched the first 2 seasons. It's ridiculous. But they're all fun in their own right, and I will watch their adventures definitely for another season. We'll see how I feel after that one, but the second season was really fun, also surprisingly dark and gripping. So yeah, we'll see what the third season does, if it's as good as the second one. And yeah, interested to see more of this show, to my own surprise. But that's where we are. John, what is your next keeper?
My next keeper is my last keeper, I believe.
Then it's also my last keeper.
What could it be? Who could it be? It's Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid S.
She has returned.
Yes. I was waiting for this show to come back.
It's been a while. I mean, there were reasons for this. Because, this is done by Kyoto Animation, and Kyoto Animation, as you might or might not have heard somewhere else or on our show, suffered a lot of tragic losses because their studio was engulfed in an arson attack. Some people died. Among them, if I'm not mistaken, the director of the first season of Dragon Maid.
Yeah.
And so someone else took over, and now we get the second season. We had a couple of shorts that were released in the previous season before this, who were all fun in their own right, in my opinion.
It was a nice appetizer for the main course, as it were.
Yes, it got you reacquainted with all the characters you might have maybe forgotten if you had not rewatched the first season. I don't know. Did you, John? Did you rewatch the first season again?
No, but it's been a minute, so I probably should have.
I mean, there's not that much actual plot in the first season. So it's fine, but there is some character development there. I mean, that's why we liked the first season so much, because there was some really cool character development for Kana, the little girl dragon, for Toru, the dragon maid, and of course for Miss Kobayashi and everything, and the stuff with her parents, and also with Toru's father, who is kind of an asshole, and all that. And I was hoping that this season would go more into those relationships, the relationships between dragons and humans, and all the problems and the different factions that are at war in the Dragon Kingdom. And apparently it will, if the first 2 episodes are any indication.
Because we get introduced to a new dragon named Ilulu, and we kind of already know what her deal is.
Yeah, a lot of back pain.
Yeah, god damn it. I mean, there's that. But, I mean, she has a fierce vendetta against humans, and it's outlined pretty clear in both the intro sequence as well as within the space of the first couple episodes that there was some really bad back and forth between the tribe of dragons that she's with, and the humans from her world, and kind of left her distrustful of the humans.
Yeah, absolutely. But, that kind of also gets eased by Kobayashi and the way she is, right? And, Ilulu has her own approach to... She is a bit more forceful, I feel like, even more than Toru when it comes to yearning for Kobayashi's affections. And this is where a bit of my worry with the show comes in, because I don't remember the first season to be that fucking horny. Like, Dragon Maid got horny, dude. Like, holy shit, from Ilulu having, like, this ginormous wreck that just looks like she is gonna keel over any second. And then, she giving Kobayashi a fucking dick, and then, for a while anyway, and then she and Toru are competing for who wants to mate with her, and it's like, what is going on? I don't remember the show being this horny. What is happening?
I mean, in the first episode, Ilulu approaches Kobayashi and says to her, "Aren't you afraid of Toru?" And Kobayashi says, "Not when she's as cute as she is." And Ilulu, in so many words, says, "So she makes you horny." And it's like,
Yeah, it's like, what? I mean, it's funny, but it also, I didn't see that coming. I wonder if was Dragon Maid based on a manga? I don't remember.
Okay, yeah, it's based on a manga.
Okay. So you can't really put that on a new director or anything, or new writing crew, because those things are probably in the manga. So, I don't know, it's just, maybe I don't remember the first... I mean, Toru also always has been trying to make Kobayashi eat her dragon tail meat from the get-go, which is kind of a very blunt metaphor for something. And so... So it's not like it wasn't in the show before. I was surprised how fucking overt it is this time around. Like they're really going for it. And I don't know. That could be totally fine. I was just surprised by it. And some scenes are questionable, where it's like Ilulu turning Kobayashi into a man, where it's like she automatically now gets aroused by Toru, while she didn't as a woman, apparently. That's not how that works, show. Not at all. That's something different. And she's also afraid to get aroused by Kana, which is a whole different can of worms. So that whole collection of scenes, I wasn't into that. But they end that very quickly. And all her interaction with Toru, especially when she finds out that she is now equipped with a member, is really funny. Because she's going for it, but, when she's out of her maid costume, she just is not as attractive to Kobayashi anymore. She's only interested in her because she's a maid otaku. It's funny. The show is at least consistent in that regard. But she's very peculiar about her fandomship for maids. And yeah, I like all the fun side stories and everything. So, yeah, I'm probably going to stick with that. Even though I was like, wow, okay, I don't remember the show being this forward when it comes to those themes. But maybe that's what the S in Dragon Maid S stands for. Who knows? We'll see. But yeah, it's fun. It's a fun show. It always was a fun show. It's very well animated. There are not many fight scenes in this show. It's not really what it's about. But when they are, they really go for it. And yeah, it's entertaining. And when Toru breaks out her actual Chaos Dragon anger, it's always a sight to behold when she goes against that one dude from the Harmony faction and just looks like she's fucking strangling him or breaking his neck.
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa, holy shit. You tend to forget that she is a very dangerous dragon. But here we are. And it's fun. Their dynamic is fun. There are a lot of interesting details in the first couple of episodes. Like, I don't know if you noticed that. And there's this one short where Kana, while having dinner or breakfast or whatever, gets distracted by the TV all the time.
Yeah.
And then in the actual first episode of the second season, she sits on the seat that doesn't have a view directly to the TV. Because before that, Kobayashi and Toru were like, stop looking at the TV and eat your fucking food. So I don't know if that is a coincidence and if she will sit on another seat in the next episode. But in that episode, she sat there like as a response to that short, I feel like. It's like, so you don't get distracted as much by the TV anymore and eat your fucking food. Which was, if that was intentional, that was a really cool, neat little detail.
That could be. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, it was, I noticed that it was like, hey, if this was intentional, not total coincidence, this is pretty damn cool thing of character development in a way. So I like that, and I bet if you look more closely at the background and other stuff in the show, you would pick out some of other things. You can pick out some other things as well. So I will do that, and I will keep on watching the show because it's funny, it's clever, it's very raunchy right now, and very well animated, and yeah, has just a lot of fun characters. My favorite is still Fafnir, of course. He is the best. Every time in the shorts where he's like has a meeting with his guild members and finds out that they're not the same as in the game. It's like, humans cannot be trusted. And his roommate is like, but you're also posing at someone else.
Yeah.
So what's your fucking deal? And then when there's a power outage, no, not a power outage, when he can't log into his account for some reason.
Oh no!
Oh no! The fate of the world is at stake.
I think that was probably the best little part of that first episode.
Yes.
Just him being like, I can't log in. He just gets up and walks away. It's like, oh.
Yeah, it's really, dangerous aura. If it was a JoJo show, there would be like this text over the screen. Go. You know, menacing. But yeah, Dragon Maid is a fun show. It's still a fun show and a good-looking show. So I'm going to keep with it if it doesn't get too problematic, and I assume you will do the same.
Oh, definitely.
Mm-hmm. I guess that's it for the sneak peek this time around, so we're going to move on to our review of our first show from spring, and it's a doozy.
Mm-hmm. So, we're opening up this season of reviews with with quite the doozy, don't you think?
Oh yeah, absolutely. An unexpected doozy, really, if I remember correctly, because in the sneak peek, for you it was still a maybe. I hadn't even watched it when we did the sneak peek, and then the stuff you said about it piqued my interest, and also I watched a video by Jeff Thu on it, and that also sounded really cool. So I was like, his preview of the shows, and I was like, oh, okay, this looks more promising than I would have judged from the summary. And apparently, yeah, that was the case.
I mean, Jeff Thu, Giga, Kaiser Neko, a whole bunch of people in the anime space were super big on this, and there's reasons why, a lot of which we can't really talk about because this is going to be a mostly spoiler-free talk, I believe.
Yes, and this is a very plot-heavy show in a way. It's also very character-driven, but there's a lot of things happening. There's a lot of developments and a lot of surprises and twists and turns, so we don't want to give those away because they're half the fun. So
what show could we possibly be talking about? It's Odd Taxi.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Just right off the get-go, we actually get a title drop for this show in the show, which is very nice.
It doesn't happen too often in anime. I mean, well, it kind of happened in Attack on Titan, but, hey, mistranslations.
Yeah, that's true. It made it more funny than it should have been.
Yeah. So, what is Odd Taxi about? Well, eccentric and blunt, the walrus Hiroshi Odokawa lives a relatively normal life. He drives a taxi for a living, and there he meets several unique individuals. The jobless Taichi Kabasawa, who is dead set on going viral. The mysterious nurse Miho Shirakawa, the struggling comedic duo Homo Sapiens, and Dobu, a well-known delinquent. But Odokawa's simple way of life is about to be turned upside down. The case of a missing girl the police have been tracking leads back to him. And now both the Yakuza and a duo of corrupt cops are on his tail. Set in a strangely familiar city with unusual individuals. Odd Taxi is a bizarre story about a humble taxi driver and the mystery of a lost high schooler. So, like you said, I wasn't 100% on this show, but boy, oh boy, the deeper you get into this show, the more you have to know.
Absolutely. For several reasons.
Yes. But yeah, this show is... I think I stated incorrectly that this might have been based off a manga. I think I'm pretty sure it's the other way around. I think there was a manga tie-in that ran parallel to this show, so it's technically an original production.
That has happened more often in recent times, I feel like. I think we had some shows we reviewed where there was a manga either running concurrently or after the fact.
So this was headed up by Studio Pix, who I don't think we've talked about before.
No,
they don't have. Yeah, they don't have a super big resume, but they did this series called The Journey Home slash space bug, depending on where you live, what it's called, which I hadn't heard of before. Did some CG production on Appleseed 13 and Kingsglaive FF15. Boy, the CG in Kingsglaive is nuts, by the way.
Yeah, so it's weird enough because there's really, aside from the cars, I guess, there's no CG in Taxi.
Yeah. And the other big player in this production, maybe you heard of them, is OLM, formerly known as Oriental Light and Magic. They worked on, some stuff we've talked about before, like Adam the Beginning, and then some other stuff like, Beyblade, Vanguard, Inazuma 11, Yokai Watch, Pokemon. They've been around the block.
Yeah, they worked on some good seasons of Pokemon, just animation quality-wise, I think. And also they worked on one of my favorite not-so-mecha anime, Shinkon Gattai Godana, if I remember correctly.
Oh, yeah.
That was a very fun show, and I think they worked on that too.
I feel like I've seen Godana in like a Super Robot Wars lineup at least once, so... Mm-hmm. Other than that, I don't have much familiarity behind it.
It holds up. I rewatched it recently. It's very raunchy. It's a very, very, very bosom and butt heavy show, but it's very entertaining and feels very old school and over the top. In a way a Gurren Lagann does and stuff. So if you dig that kind of shit, maybe if you can unearth it somewhere in the depths of some, I don't know if there is a Blu-ray release of it. I'm not sure. There definitely was a DVD release, and if you don't have,
apparently it's available to watch on High Dive. So
there you go. Check if so. Subscribe to High Dive and check it out there. It's a lot of fun.
The crew on this show seems to be very. They don't have a lot to their names, but
Newbies.
You don't need a long ass resume to make a good ass show, though.
Oh yeah.
Because the director Baku Kinoshita and the scriptwriter Kazuya Konomoto, who the latter which is also penning the manga version, don't have really any of their big works to their names. So they hit it hard. They hit it real hard.
Mm-hmm. Quite the debut project, I gotta say.
Making a splash, as it were.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, just from the looks. Odd Taxi is a very unique show in my opinion because it's, first of all, if you couldn't tell from John's summary, this is a show that is populated entirely with animals. Our main character is a walrus, and all of the other people are different animals. He has a best friend who is a monkey. He has his doctor is a gorilla. The nurse is what is she? An alpaca.
I believe she's an alpaca.
Yeah, I think so.
Yes.
So, yeah, there are a bunch of different animals here, and so this is a very the show has a very distinct look. It's not really realistic. Beastars with its animal portrayals tries to go for a more realistic approach when it comes to its anthropomorphic animal creatures. Odd Taxi not so much. It looks very, I wouldn't call it Disney-ish, but it's definitely more cartoony. Mm. It's a very unique style, and I liked it a lot. What did you think about it, John?
I think a good way to describe it is that the visuals are a bit more simple, but
yes.
That's not a bad thing.
No, not at all.
Not by any means. So I think keeping it simple like this allowed them to do a lot more with it in the animation department, because it's not a super Sakuga fest, but this show really, they went out of their way to make to be able to do some good stuff with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And just in general, the show has the visuals of the show, not only the visuals, but also they're part of that convey like this very dense atmosphere with how the characters that populate the city act and how they are portrayed, how their daily lives are portrayed, and those are a very important factor into this, especially our main character's Udokawa's daily life as a taxi driver, and how he drives around in the city. And there are some stretches in the beginning of the show where it's just him in his car driving through the streets of whatever the city is called, and listening to his favorite comedy duo, Homo Sapiens, on the radio, and driving some passengers somewhere. And it's just that background noise, and you see the car driving down the street, and it's the city lights coming through the window. It's this really nice, cool, relaxed atmosphere, and it helps you be relaxed, feel safe, which is funny because it feels like the show is trying to pull down your defenses for what comes next in the coming episode, where it's like, oh, you wait. You think this is like this cute little relaxed slice of life, maybe Yashike show in a way or something. Nope, that's not what is happening at all.
Mm-mm.
So yeah, I love that. I thought the atmosphere the show establishes and how it makes use of the visuals in that regard was really great. There's also like this fuzzy texture to all of its environments. Like all of it looks a bit like it is made of fabric in a way in certain parts. Like the whole inside of Odokawa's car has like this, I don't know, these fuzzy edges to it, which was really interesting. So, because you also have animals with fur and everything, and also like I said, the interiors are, and I don't know if the exteriors, like if the environment also has some of that fabric-y feeling to it, but yeah, definitely I noticed that inside of the car, and it was a neat visual style that I hadn't seen before yet, and I liked it a lot. I thought it was cool.
I guess I didn't really pick up on that detail too much.
Yeah, to rewatch it and check for those scenes, or at least notice it inside of the cars, but maybe it was somewhere else too, in some rooms, or I don't know. And speaking of good visuals, there is the OP, of course, which is fantastic.
It is a vibe, man.
It is an absolute vibe. It has a fantastic intro song. Like, the moment I watched that intro, I was in. I was like, oh, this is something special. We got something here, folks. And it was right. And the reason for that is that the OP incorporates a lot of what is happening in the show into its visual metaphors and messaging and so on. And you don't know it at that point. We talked about that in our previous review, in our review of Beastar's second season. Other anime too that do some stuff with their OP. I think you talked about it with Talentless Nana. That incorporated some stuff from the plot and some stuff for the character development, and so or what these characters are, what they're all about, into the OP. And you, without context, you don't really make anything of it. You're like, okay, this looks weird. And once you get to that point in the story, you're like, all right, okay, all right.
Suddenly it makes sense.
Yes, it all makes sense. And by the end of the show, that is a beautiful thing, I guess. It's the most beautiful thing. Everything makes fucking sense. Everything. I think I've never. I mean, we're jumping ahead a bit, but I think I've never seen a show wrapping pretty much up all of its ties so neatly and so interestingly and so perfectly in a single scene even. That was quite something. So yeah, I can't complain in that regard, but we have some way to go there. So John, why don't you tell us about the characters of this show, of this amazing little show?
Yes, so where do we start? Why don't we start with the main character himself, Odokawa. So Odokawa is a 40-something taxi driver, and he's a walrus. He just kind of wants to keep to himself. Like, a lot of the others call him, I forget exactly how to describe him, just like very introverted, very this, very that. But, he just wants to get in his taxi, drive people around, make his money for the day. He listens to Rakugo comedy on the radio in his car. Most notably, I briefly mentioned before, the comedy duo Homo Sapiens, and he just kind of wants to keep to himself. But there's things going on there that diving into those is. Whew,
yes, we can't say too much about those because a lot of the plot is about also finding out about Odokawa and Odokawa's past and what his character is about and how he is connected to a lot of the stuff that's happening in the show. That is one of the main things that the show is doing. It's kind of like connecting all of its characters, at least in one way or another. Not every character is connected to every other character, but there's like this web of characters who are in this show. and they kind of influence each other in a way and set certain things into motion, and it's kind of like a domino effect. Where it's like one character does one thing that knocks over a stone, that sets another character into motion. And in the end, they kind of all are linked together through this story. And it's really cool. It reminds you of a certain set of Hollywood movies, which I think many people have picked up on.
Yeah, Odokawa is definitely the linchpin for everyone else.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and he's very... Like, without saying too much, immediately you're picking up on him being like this... Like, there's more to him than meets the eye. Just him being a walrus, he looks already kind of grumpy. But even more than that, he's really fucking grumpy in a way. Like, he's very sarcastic, can be pretty mean to other people. Not in a really like, I'm gonna be mean to people, but he's very blunt. He's very...
Yes.
He always says what he thinks. Well, mostly. Sometimes he tries to hold it back, but that doesn't always work. He doesn't really take other people's feelings into consideration. He knows what he might or might not be doing with what he's saying, but he simply doesn't care most of the time. And you immediately get the feeling that he is really hyper intelligent. He's a very intelligent guy. Like, right from the get-go, in the first episode, when he picks up this kid who's trying to go big, go viral on Twitter, or this universe's version of Twitter, he carefully considers answering every question and is easily able to analyze the intentions behind a tweet that kid shows him. And you immediately know that, okay, there's more to this guy than this show in the beginning wants to make us believe. And that's really cool and interesting.
Might as well talk about that kid then, Kabasawa.
Mm-hmm.
He is this specifically dwarf hippopotamus, specifically. That is according to the Odd Taxi wiki. And he's just this young college student who, like you said, he's trying to make a name for himself on Twitter. He's going after this criminal that everybody seems to know, but nobody can really pin down, this guy named Dobu. And when Kabasawa is riding in Odokawa's taxi and he takes a selfie of them two, he catches a glimpse of Dobu, and that basically sets him in motion to try and track him down. There's sort of this weird alternate reality layer to this show, by the way, because as things were happening in show and being tweeted about and written about, there were actual Twitter accounts contributing to this to make it seem all the more real. You could follow Kabasawa on Twitter and see what he was doing in the videos he was posting and everything, which was actually really wild.
I wasn't aware of that, so it's a bit of a cross-media thing, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Like an augmented reality or alternate reality game, I guess.
Yeah. Cool idea.
Yeah. Kabasawa is very, very cocky, very brash, but again, reasons. It's hard to talk about the minutia of a lot of the characters without being like, hey, asterisk.
Yeah. I mean, we can talk about the setups and everything, but ultimately each character, almost not all of them, but almost all of the characters have a journey in this one. Some more journeys are more important to the main plot and to our main character than others. Some are only bit players that figure into the story itself, but themselves don't really have much important things to discover or something. But most of them go through a journey, learn something about themselves, learn something about other characters. So we can't really go into that development without taking a lot of what makes the show so great out of it beforehand. So since we don't want to do that, we can basically only tell you like the setup. I hope that those snippets sound convincing enough to make you consider watching the show, though, because it's really worth it. But those are the limitations of a spoiler-free review when it comes to such a plot-heavy show.
Also, there's Godiki, who is a friend of Odokawa's, but also his doctor. he's kind of worried about Odokawa, the fact that, he lives by himself. He doesn't seem like he is always looking out for himself. So Goriki is kind of there to be like, hey, man, listen, if you need some help, you just need to say something. And Odokawa is a very proud character, so he's just sort of like,
Yeah, he doesn't really want to be bothered by anyone. He also doesn't want to bother anyone. I mean, he's friends with Goriki. They're drinking together. Like, they go to the same bar with his other friend Kakihana too. And it feels like Goriki is one of the few people Odokawa actually wants to be around once in a while. But yeah, Goriki is also like, yeah, you're my friend, but also I'm your doctor, and I see that you have problems falling asleep. You can only do it when you listen to, boring Rakugo stuff. And he tells him, like, my mind won't stop racing if I don't listen to this. So that's why I need to listen to it to fall asleep. He might be hearing voices and stuff like that. And all of that, of course, worries Goriki. And it's also him and his friendship to Odokawa that drives a part of the plot, especially when it comes to Odokawa's background story and uncovering that. And I think their dialogue, their banter is really cool. Like we said before, Odokawa is very blunt and very sarcastic, and they're not all other characters really, I don't know, get to engage with that. They're not necessarily put off by it, but also they don't really have the, I don't know, the banter chops to like shoot back at him equally, like in equal force. And I feel like Goriki is one of those people who can in certain parts, at least when he wants to, and also the nurse employed by him, Shirakawa, who is really good at that. Like she doesn't give an inch to Odokawa's bullshit. I enjoyed their banter like the most in this show. It's fantastic. Like, while other people are like, when Odokawa says something really insensitive, they're like, she's like, completely doesn't give a shit, or just fucking snaps back at him with an equally witty line. And like, their exchanges are super fun to listen to. In general, the dialogue in this show is fucking great. It's super witty, it's clever, there's a lot of stuff running beneath it and between the lines and everything. And if you pay attention, you very quickly learn what certain characters are about, and you pick up on their mannerisms and stuff like that. And the show does a lot with language and how that is conveyed, what is conveyed in certain ways, like not just text, but also body language and, facial gestures and everything, which are, of course, more expressive if you're talking about animals in a way. And so that's really interesting. And one of our villains is also very interesting when it comes to the matter of speech. So,
yes, I believe you're referring to Yano.
Yes, Yano. We meet him very late in the story, kinda, because he is like this shadow man for a long time. We learn from him once Dobo comes into the picture and he becomes a character, and Yano is basically his nemesis in the Yakuza organization that they're both working for, and Yano is kind of trying to outdo him and become the next big hotshot guy. And Yano is constantly rapping. Every time he appears on screen, suddenly a rap track, a hip-hop beat starts picking up in the background, and then he delivers his lines, his dialogue, to the beat of the music. And that is so fucking unique and wild and makes him such an interesting, quirky villain. I loved it. What did you think about it, John?
It's so much fun. I mean, first off, interesting enough, I didn't realize. I learned a few things about some of the cast and production behind the show while looking up. His voice actor is a rapper named Meteor.
Oh, yeah, of course. That makes sense then.
Yeah.
And he sounded like he knows what he's doing, so yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure he came in and wrote a lot of those lines for himself. And major props to the translator who made all of that shit work.
Oh, yeah, yeah, definitely. The subs never felt off or anything. It always felt good, like there were some clever rhymes in there that worked very well in English. And yeah, that character is really fun. He's one of those characters that doesn't really get a journey himself. He's more a clear-cut antagonist for most of the show's runtime, But he's very interesting, not only because of his speech, but also, how he behaves in front of other people and what his deal is, what he wants to do and how he goes about it. And Yano has lost his composure when he stops rhyming. Then shit is going down.
I love that. Without giving anything away too much, but in a later episode, one of his flunkies, Sekiguchi, calls him out on it. It's like, Yano, what are you doing? You're not rapping. He's like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, it's great. It's fantastic.
So good.
Yeah, I loved him. I already mentioned Dobu. He becomes a very important player in this story as well. You said he was a delinquent, but yeah, he's also pretty clear-cut Yakuza.
Oh, yeah.
He's a bully. He's a thug. And he works for the same organization that Yano works for. He has some drive because, Yano tries to one-up him and Dobu tries to avoid that. He has some connections to one of the other characters, of course, because everyone in this show has a connection to one of the other characters. But yeah, it's really cool how his and Odokawa's relationship develops over the show and goes to several different places and has some twists and turns by itself. And yeah, it's interesting because you get the feeling that underneath his exterior, Dobu is not really a pure evil guy. With Yano, you get the feeling, no, that guy is just a fucking punk. That is an opportunistic asshole and he doesn't give a shit. And with Dobu, you feel like, no, there might be more there, but he has to keep up appearances. And also, there is a darkness to him, and that comes through in certain parts, and that is really scary, especially in, when there's a scene where he threatens Odokawa and stuff like that, and it's really, woof.
He also kind of has these policeman brothers, the Daimon brothers, in his pocket.
In the beginning, they don't play much of a big part. You immediately get that the big Daimon is a corrupt cop, is a dirty cop, and on the take for Dobu and his organization. And the younger brother is just a fucking idiot who idolizes his big brother and does everything for justice and, doesn't pick up on what his brother is doing. But that also goes places, and their backstory is also not bad. And that's also one of the things. You understand where each character in the story is coming from, at least by the end of this show. You know what every single character is about, why they're doing what they're doing, how they got here, and you not necessarily sympathize with all of them. Like I said, Yano is an asshole. And, there are some other characters that are like, yeah, Jesus, fuck that. Someone needs to punch that fucker in the face. But a lot of the characters are really just relatable and down to earth, and you definitely feel what they're all about. And this is weird because, like I said, a show that looks so cartoonish in a way and very unique and, is populated by animals and everything. But a lot of these animal characters feel even more human than certain humans in other story. It's so cool to, the way they talk, the way they interact and everything. And it all feels so down to earth and real and interesting. So, yeah, I thought, again, the writing in this show is, in my opinion, spectacular.
It's by far like the strongest point of the show. That's not to say the animation or anything else is bad, but the writing is a cut above.
Katsuya Kunomoto, the writer, first thing he did, at least in the anime land. I don't know if he wrote a movie before or something else or a book, but again, this is a debut thing, and talk about knocking it out of the fucking park for you. For your fucking first entry. What the hell? Like, I cannot wait for what he's doing next. Like, this is crazy. I was so surprised by how good the writing in this show is and how great the dialogue is and everything. So yeah, I cannot wait to see the next project from that writer. But yeah, going back to the characters. Who else do we have? I mean, we mentioned Shirakara before. She also has a very, very interesting part to play in this story. She has a connection to another character. She has also some interest in Odokawa and vice versa in a way. And yeah, a lot of the plot is also driven by their interactions and everything. And she has a very important part to play, and it's really cool. Then we have Odokawa's, I guess, best friend. I don't know if he or Goriki are Odokawa's best friends. But yeah. Kakihana the monkey dude who is also a janitor, I guess, or cleaning service or whatever. And he dreams of marrying whatever girl. Like,
yeah, he just wants to get married.
Yes, he apparently doesn't really care what that girl looks like, what her interests are. He just wants to get... That doesn't mean he's a bad guy or anything. He's just like, he's really, really alone and really, really sad. Right from the get-go, the first thing he does is like fixing his dating profile and then starting to date an 18-year-old. I'm like,
Red flags?
Yeah. No.
Bro, you're 41 years old, bro.
Yeah. It's a bad idea. And, then making a lot of expensive gifts to that person and everything. And yeah, it's, you can...
Getting in debt to the wrong people.
Yeah, you can see where his story might go. And it's not a happy place. Also, really interesting story, and also that moves the plot forward. We have, you mentioned them before, John, the comedy duo, Homo Sapiens, that
Baba and Shibagaki.
Shibagaki, right? I always forget the second guy's name. I remember Baba, but Shibagaki, I don't know who might be the more prolific one, even in terms of how he talks, and I don't know. They seem to be, I'm not sure, but I think they're age-wise, they're very mismatched, right? I think Baba is a very young, up and coming quote unquote guy, while Shibagaki is really old. Is he? I don't know.
They're about the same age, apparently.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Just from the way he talked, I always figured Shibagaki to be like this older dude.
Yeah, I mean, they've definitely carried themselves that way.
Okay, yeah. Tell us more about them, because I don't know. They probably have the least integral role in this story, I would say. They're just always in the background in a way. And they're connected to some characters, but I feel like they have the least effect on what is happening.
I mean, they're connected to Odokawa insofar that Odokawa listens to their comedy all the time. He gives them a ride one time. Mm-hmm. And, that's pretty much the extent of it. But, they're trying to be an up-and-coming comedy duo. Shibagaki is this little stout boar, and Baba is a horse. So, they're about as much mismatched in looks as you can get. Uh-huh. Basically, Shibagaki's their roles in their comedy duo is that Baba is the straight man, and Shibagaki is supposed to be the funny guy trying to make all the jokes. And they're decently popular, but it's apparent that they both kind of want more from their careers.
Yeah, they're still waiting to hit it big with the Comedy Grand Prix and everything and making it there. And yeah, they also get some reservations about their material and if they're really a good match for each other and everything, and they need to work that out. And, there's some back and forth in that regard. And I just remember, I don't know how I forgot it, but there's a very important scene that Shibagaki is involved in that relates to Odokawa that happens at the midpoint of the show or the first third. I was like, okay, yeah, not necessarily that he has an effect while talking to Odokawa, but he definitely has definitely does something that if he didn't do it, the story could have gone a very different way. So, I forgot about that. And Baba is related to one of the other characters who is more important in the story and everything. So, yeah, I guess they're also. But you get the feeling they're more in the background, which is, and considering that they're really getting kind of a lot of screen time for that, that's kind of interesting. And I guess it speaks to the show that it also spends enough time on those characters that don't necessarily have that much of an effect on the plot itself, but also that it wants to give them enough screen time and enough development so that they don't feel like filler characters or everything. So yeah, it's a cool thing. It's just you have to pay attention to okay, these are also important in a way, or their story is interesting enough. But yeah, they're cool. Not necessarily my humor, except for one line pretty much at the end that made me laugh out loud for several reasons. In a key moment of the show, I don't really get their humor, but they're interesting, definitely.
Manzai humor is weird.
It's special, yeah. It's a special brand of humor, not necessarily my thing, but yeah.
Or I guess weird by Western standards. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's a very prolific thing in Japanese, a very prolific brand of humor. Like, you know, these comedy duos that you have on TV or radio that talk to each other. I don't think we have that much, really.
Yeah.
You know?
I think out west, it's more like stand-up and sketch comedy than it is anything else.
Yeah. I mean, you had stand-up comedy in Japan too, but again, it's these duos again that talk about certain things. I mean, that's what you always see in anime a lot, where it's like these two people that, you know, do a bit or talk over a certain other thing and comment on it. And that seems to be a very, very standard Japanese comedy thing that is happening a lot of the time. And you don't really see that over here that much.
Interesting fact. Did you know that Shibagaki and Baba's voice actors are an actual comedy duo in RL?
I'm not surprised.
Did you know that there are several comedy duos in the cast of this show? I didn't realize that until I was looking at like the cast list on the Odd Taxi Wiki. That was like, yeah, all these pairs of characters, like the Daimon brothers, Baba, Shibagaki, and then some of the others are parts of their own comedy acts.
Yeah, it makes sense considering how realistic the dialogue sounds, that some of them are not really prolific voice actors or everything, because their dialogue feels more, you know, natural. Their voices don't feel as pronounced as others, because, you know, they're not professional seiyus or what have you. So yeah, that makes sense to me. And especially, like you said, the Daimon twins, they talk very different from the other characters, and so do Homo sapiens. So, but again, this show in general, the dialogue in this show feels very different from what you usually get in anime series. Just through all of the characters, it's like the way they talk to each other feels much more realistic and much more like a normal TV drama would feel like. Even if you just not even listening to their voices, but also reading the translation, the subs and everything, just the way it's structured, the way the back and forth happens and everything, it feels much more like a normal conversation than a scripted thing. Not that it feels like they're just talking out of their ass or something. No, it just feels like this is a conversation that actual people might be having next to you in a restaurant or something, or in a taxi. So, yeah. Yes. So that makes a lot of sense. I would say we have one more very important set of characters, and those are Mystery Kiss, who are this up-and-coming idol group that try to make it big, and a fan of theirs is also an important one. And I mean, we've left out some minor side characters who are also important. One specifically we left out so far because you can't really go into his story without giving away a lot of surprises that are happening and, you know, some real dark development shit. But also, his story is really cool, and I hope it will deter you from ever playing a gacha game. And
shut up! I just got to do my dailies in Princess Connect.
I loved his story. I loved his story. It was really, really cool. It was a really cool in its self-contained episode, but also it felt so down to earth and sad and raging in a way, but you completely understand where his character came from and how he was pushed over the edge and everything, and it's really disturbing.
That episode is it's the weirdest one at first, because you're watching it and you're like, what does this have to do with anything? And then they bring it all back around and it's like,
yes,
so good.
In general, that's what the show also does. It sets up a lot of characters doing some things, and you want to like, why am I watching this? What is happening with these characters? How is that important? And the show brings it all around at least by the end, but also earlier than that, where it's like, no, the character who did that related to this. So it was important that this happened. You just didn't know it at that point. And it sounds like it would feel super constructed and everything, but no, it feels like a natural thing that just happened by coincidence. And it's great. And I never was angry at the show for like, no, you pulled that out of your ass, and this is some, I don't know, this is some bullshit. That never happens. No, I never felt like that in the show. It all felt like
everything is there for a specific purpose.
Yes, and it all works so incredibly well. And yeah, Mystery Kiss is also important to the main plot for several reasons. It had 3 members and the manager, and they all play very integral parts and are connected to Odokawa and other characters. And especially those are really connected to the main plot and what happens in it. And again, we can't really tell what is happening in the main plot. I mean, there's the setup, like right from the get-go. The first thing we see is an unknown body being drowned in a sea or a lake, weighed down with a bunch of bricks, which is a good start to let you know, okay, this show might be darker than you expect. But yeah, then it's all about, okay, there's this high school girl gone missing, and you know, okay, this is going to be important at some point, but you don't know how, and how does Odokawa factor into this? And, there's several things that make you suspect certain characters that they have something to do with that girl. But the show is constantly throwing some new and interesting stuff and characters at you, and like, okay, how might they be related to this main setup thing? And yeah, you're constantly playing detective in this while watching this show. Not that it keeps you from getting engaged with it, but it's like a lot of things like worm their way into the back of your head, where it's like, okay, wait, and you watch a scene, and it's like, okay, is that related to that? Because after a while, you really pick up on what the show is doing, and that, like, okay, it's putting this character here to interact with that character, and that is that. So chess pieces everywhere, and how are these related to what is going on overall? So it's really interesting. It keeps you on your toes and lets you guess and play detective along the way, together with Odokawa and some of the other characters. And yeah, it's really cool. I thought it was a thrilling story. John, did you see the ending coming? Did you see when it all is being revealed in the final episode? Did you see all of it? Because there are several reveals. It's not only one reveal. Like, there are like 3 reveals stacked on each other. And that sounds like overkill, but it all comes natural and it all feels earned and it is done so well. And John, did you see any of those coming?
Absolutely not. You called one thing in particular, and when I told you need to watch the final episode, you were like, oh.
Yeah, rightfully so. I'm glad I was right for once. That rarely happens. So, yeah, that was nice. And again, also that part is done really well. But just in general, like, that final episode is one of the best final episodes I've ever seen in anything. Like in anime, in live action TV series, just the way all these story threads are coming together, and all the character development for a lot of the characters is resolved in this one episode in a certain way. Not all of it, like, satisfyingly, I would say, because, some characters are left at an ambiguous, open-ended part in their lives. Some very important ones. And let's not beat around the bush. The show ends. I mean, some people might be pissed off by the ending of the show, but because it's not really a conclusive ending in a way. You can guess what's going to happen next, but the show cuts out right before it, pretty much. Right before the final thing, the most important thing happening, and you can't be sure. You can't be quite sure. It's the Inception thing with the fucking spin top. That's just shivering a bit, and you're like, oh fuck, is it gonna fall? What's gonna happen next? So yeah, the show cuts to credits, to the end credits right at that moment. I mean, speaking of the cross-media thing that you mentioned before, we also have audio dramas who also apparently elaborate on some of the stuff that happens in each episode a bit more. And I think they're in story done by one of the characters that appears in the show. Yeah, I haven't listened to them yet. I think the final ones are not translated in. There is a YouTube channel where you can listen to them, and I will link it in our episode description. And I can imagine that the audio drama happening after the final episode of the show maybe gives us a bit of an epilogue. On the other hand, I don't feel the show needs it. It might be stronger for not giving us that final complete bookend to the story. I don't know how you felt about it, John. I felt like, no, this is a good way to end it, even though we're kind of left on the edge of our seat here with what might happen to one of the characters and everything. But I felt like, just in terms what style the story went for up till now and everything, I feel like this is how it can end. Maybe this is how it should end.
It kind of cuts both ways, because I want to know Because there's something, there's something after what happens at the end of the show. But at the same time, it's like, do we need to know? Can't we just draw our own foregone conclusions? But it's like, you can't have it both ways.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's the thing. And it probably comes down to what kind of end to a story you like. Do you like endings neatly wrapped up with a nice, colorful red bow on top of it and everything? Or do you like endings that leave a bit room open for interpretation? And it's definitely one of those. Don't get me wrong, all the other stuff, like, everyone gets closure to their personal story in a way which would be remarkable in itself, but also the main plot and mystery are resolved satisfyingly, which I thought is a great feat. Like, none of that felt like, oh, great, what does that mean? No. It's just like there's this final bit in the final episode, just right before the end credits, where like, oh, fuck, and then it ends. And if you hate stuff like that, you might be angry at the ending. I don't know. I wasn't. I loved it. I thought it was great, and I thought it fit the storytelling of this show, and I thought it fit what our characters were doing and how it was written and everything. And I can imagine what comes next, because the characters who are involved in that final scene, I know what they're about, and I can imagine what will happen next in that scene. So, but there are probably some write-ups out there that analyze that ending to death and that are like, no, this is going to happen next, and this, and because the show gave us hints for that in this and this and this episode and stuff like that. Like, okay. If you want to seek those out, sure, do it. You can probably do that. There are probably enough write-ups for that out there. But I don't feel like you need to. I feel like it's great the way it is. We might get an epilogue at a certain point. We might even get the second season. I don't know. I don't feel like we need one. But
nah, I don't think so either.
Yeah, I have no idea. I feel like this is where the show should end. And if we don't get a proper epilogue to this that really wraps up even that final scene perfectly, I think we're fine. I think it's great the way it is. And I had a fantastic time watching this show. It was like the show this season. As soon as it was out, I needed to watch it. It was and I didn't expect that. I read the summary on one of our, hey, these are all the new shows this season sites, where we determine which we want to check out. And I was like, okay, and Animals again, it sounds like a lesser Beastars. Nah, it's not. Nope, it's just as good. It's very different. It's a very different kind of story in terms of what it's trying to say, how its characters are structured and everything, and what mood it's going for. But it's definitely just as good. Depending how you look at it, it might be better. I loved it. I thought Odd Taxi is definitely one of the best anime I've ever seen. I can say that without any doubt. John, how did you feel about it, just in general?
Man, it was so good. Fucking, and I know there's another show we're going to be talking about this season that was also really good. And it's weird because I feel like I'll need to revamp like my top 5 twice, at least twice this year, because man, this show was such a fucking surprise. Like,
out of nowhere, like debut project for a lot of the staff involved, studio we've never heard of. A very interesting, particular design choice and storytelling choice. And then it just fucking goes. It fucking goes places. And all these places are fantastic. Like, I did not see that coming.
I think even if the story isn't bookended the way some people want, it does have sort of a bookend in a way. Because the first thing Odokawa says in the very first episode is, "Where to?" The last thing he says in the last episode is, "Where to?" Perfect. Perfect. It's such a small thing, but it's great.
It rhymes, just like Yano does. The show knows what it's doing, and it wears its influences on its sleeves. I would say they're definitely, I don't know, Konomoto might be a fan of the works of a Mr. Tarantino or the Coen brothers or stuff like that, because it definitely feels like it is going for that kind of storytelling, for these kind of surprises, for this kind of banter and everything, for this kind of dialogue from those movies, at least in certain parts. Doesn't adhere to necessarily one of those styles, but there are definitely some influences from that. And it definitely feels like one of those movies in a certain way, with all that entails. Doesn't get as violent as some of those, but there is violence in there. Don't get me wrong. There's some really gruesome stuff in there that I did not expect. And so...
It doesn't happen often, but it's used to really good effect. It's really shocking.
Yes, it's shocking, but it's not sensationalist. It's not just to shock you. It's just like, no, the show is not really about that, but it needs to be in here to be a good contrast to the rest of the show and to make it clear to you that now there are really big stakes here. And really cool. Again, the entirety you watch the show, at least, let's say after this first episode, probably, when you get the feeling what the show is doing and what it's about, you get the feeling that these people know exactly what they're doing. That they have a place they want to go to with the story, and that they know what the endpoint of the story is, which you don't really always get in anime, which you don't really always get in any media whatsoever, where it's like, we have a setup for this, don't know where we'll end up with this and what we'll be doing. I never got that feeling in Odd Taxi. I watched this show and was like, this is going somewhere, and I don't know where yet, and that makes me go fucking insane. But it's going somewhere, and it's going to be great. And I was right. Holy shit. I couldn't have been more satisfied with this ending and how it wrapped up all the character stories and everything. And it's just a fantastic show, period. And if you're not watching Odd Taxi, you're a bad anime fan, or just a bad person in general.
Oh no.
Going out on a limb here, at least after we told you about it now. I mean, if you hadn't heard about it before, that's fine. But yeah, don't let the unique visual style deter you from checking this out, because this is fucking great. It's a fantastic story, down to earth, but also really wacky and populated with ludicrous characters, and all of them are super fun, and the dialogue is fun, and the plot is riveting, and like I said, it all comes to a very, very, very good conclusion. And definitely contender for best of the season, best of the year, best of all time. I don't know. We'll see where we end up whenever we do our best anime of the odds, or of the tens. No, we did the best of the tens. Best of the 20s?
Yes, the Roaring 20s.
The Roaring 20s, yes. Yeah, whenever that happens, prepare to encounter Odd Taxi there again. But until then, please check it out. It's available on Crunchyroll. And you should definitely watch it. If you like anime, if you like cool character-driven stories, if you like cool crime stories, whack plots that actually go somewhere, and just if you like fucking unique shit, just fucking watch it.
Original works, man.
Yes, support original anime works. This is not based on a fucking source material, apparently. So, just these are rare, and they are rarely that good. I mean, there are some real good ones out there, but holy shit, this is one of the high points. So, support these kind of stuff. Support these, especially since this is a first entry thing from this staff, and I want this staff to do more stuff. I mean, could be this is the only cool story, they have in their heads, and they're a one-hit wonder, but I doubt it, because there's the writing quality just shines through from beginning to end, and I think that crew, and especially that writer, have a lot more in store for us, and I can't wait to see what's next. I'm definitely going to keep a lookout for that, and I don't know if the next project will leave me as satisfied as Odd Taxi, because it's a really tough feat, but I'm glad it turned out the way it did, and I'm glad that I actually let myself be convinced to check this show out, which I wasn't when we did our sneak peek. So thanks, John, for turning me on to Odd Taxi.
And thank all of the Anitubers out there who wouldn't shut up about it because they were right.
Yes, that's true. Absolutely. And you shouldn't miss out on this, so go and check it out. Odd Taxi is definitely an oddity, but it's well worth your time.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a wrap on the 115th episode of Anime Brain Freeze. All the music in our show is from the Double Dragon Neon soundtrack by the amazing Jake Kaufman. please go to virt.bandcamp.com and check out his awesome work. Our show is available on most of the popular podcast services, but it's always worth visiting animebrainfreeze.com for our review index and more. Leave us comments and questions on YouTube, follow us on Twitter at AnyBrainFreeze, or send an email to animebrainfreeze@gmail.com. We would love to read your feedback. Thanks for tuning in, we hope you had a good time, and please join us again on our next episode. Macht's gut!
Take care, everybody. Next time on Anime Brain Freeze.
The bigger they are, the harder they fall.
And the dead don't die. They just come back for their revenge.